Maya Novak always thought the worst part of her job was the committee meetings. Boy, was she wrong. She stared at her holographic display, watching 80,000 beings get systematically vaporized in what the Galactic Council called a Justice Protocol broadcast. The audio was turned down, she didn't need to hear the screams, but the visuals were crystal clear. Rows upon rows of diverse life forms, from the crystalline Zephyrians to the tentacled Murati, standing in perfect formation before being reduced to molecular dust. Ambassador Novak. Her aide, Chen, knocked on her office door. The Secretary General is calling an emergency session. Maya waved him away without looking up. Tell him I'm busy contemplating how we ended up as the galactic equivalent of that kid nobody wants to sit with at lunch. The broadcast continued in the corner of her vision. Each execution was accompanied by a holographic display of the victim's crimes. Unauthorized art. Unapproved humor. Deviant thought patterns. Maya's stomach churned as she realized these weren't murderers or terrorists, they were poets, comedians, and philosophers. 30 seconds, Ambassador, Chen persisted. The entire Earth government is in panic mode. She finally turned to face him. Panic? About what? That we've been cozying up to galactic fascists. That our esteemed council just publicly executed more beings than Earth's entire military. Chen hesitated. About what our response should be. Maya laughed, a bitter sound that echoed off her office walls. Our response? We're going to demand justice, obviously. Just like we demanded justice for the Martian mining incident. And the lunar colony accident. And look how well that worked out. She accessed her personal secure channel and sent out a distress ping. 3 light-years away, in the Kepler system, a data miner named Jax received the signal. Maya had never met them in person. Gender was apparently a quaint Earth concept in their culture, but their leaked council documents had kept her sane for the past year. Nova. Jax's voice crackled through the quantum entanglement comm, bad time. They're running system purges. 80,000 beings, Jax. Live broadcast. Tell me you've got something on this, Justice Protocol. A pause filled with the white noise of subspace. Shit. They actually did it. I warned you last cycle they were planning something big. Big? This isn't big. This is, Maya stopped, watching another row of beings disappear. This is a declaration. But of what? Hold on. The sound of rapid data processing filled the comm, and cross-referencing the execution list with, oh, that's interesting. What? The executed? They're all what the council classifies as cultural deviants. Artists. Philosophers. Anyone who scored above a certain threshold on their harmony algorithm. Maya felt ice in her veins. Harmony algorithm? Yeah, it's their social cohesion measuring tool. Apparently, too much individual expression is bad for galactic stability. Who knew? She pulled up Earth's last cultural assessment scores. The numbers made her dizzy. Jax. Earth's got the highest deviation scores in the galaxy. Static crackled. Which is why you're not getting executed. Yet. What do you mean? Think about it, Nova. The Council doesn't waste resources on theatrical displays. This broadcast? It's a message. And not just to the executed species. Maya sank into her chair as the implications hit her. It's a test. Bingo. They're watching how each member species responds. Compliance gets you a gold star. Dissent gets you, well, you just watched what dissent gets you. Her office door chimed again. This time it was Admiral Reeves, Earth's military liaison to the Council. His usually composed face looked like someone had just told him Santa was real and he was actively malevolent. We need to talk, he said without preamble. Maya cut her connection with Jax. Let me guess. Earth wants to express concern and call for peaceful dialogue. Actually, Earth wants to know if you can get us weapons. She blinked. Come again. The president's considering armed response. Public opinion is volatile. People are watching their tax money fund an organization that just committed public genocide. It's not genocide if there are multiple species, Maya said automatically, then immediately regretted it. Sorry. Council speak. It's rubbing off. Reeves studied her carefully. The question is, Ambassador, are you willing to risk everything for justice? Because that's what we're talking about here. Full diplomatic breakdown. Trade embargoes. Possible military conflict. Maya thought about Jax's warning. About the harmony algorithm. About her daughter, Luna, currently attending university on Europa, probably protesting in the streets like every other young idealist with a cause. What if I told you, she said slowly, that those executions weren't random? That the council has been measuring our cultural deviation and we're next on the list? Reeves's face went pale. How do you know this? Let's just say I have a friend with good intel. She activated her secure terminal. And if I'm right, we don't have time for bureaucracy. We need to move fast, and we need to move smart. What do you propose? Maya thought about the emergency session, about the other council members who had watched the broadcast, about the carefully neutral expressions on their various faces and appendages. I propose we find out exactly how many other species are as sick of this shit as we are. Her calm buzzed. Jax again. Nova, urgent. The council's internal logs just leaked. They're planning a follow-up broadcast in 72 hours. Guess which species is headlining? Maya closed her eyes. When she opened them, Reeves was still waiting for her answer. Admiral, she said, forget the weapons. I need you to get me a full diplomatic team, Black Ops communication specialists, and whatever we have that can breach council-level quantum encryption. Why? She pulled up the leaked logs on her display. Earth's name flashed at the top of the list, followed by an estimated execution count that made the previous broadcast look like a warm-up act. Because in 72 hours, Earth either becomes the galaxy's most wanted terrorists, or we expose the council for the authoritarians they are. And I don't know about you, but I'm getting real tired of being the quiet kid in the back of the classroom. Reeves nodded slowly. What do you need me to do? First, help me figure out how to break every law in the Galactic Charter without starting a war. Then, hope like hell that enough species feel the same way we do. She looked back at her display, where the execution broadcast was finally ending. The death count scrolled across the bottom, 80,000 beings eliminated. Next broadcast, 72 hours. And maybe, she added quietly, start praying that my daughter isn't watching the news tonight. She's going to want to join the revolution, and honestly, I might not try to stop her. The office fell silent except for the low hum of quantum processors and the distant sound of Earth's communication networks exploding with outrage, fear, and the unmistakable static of a civilization standing at the edge of a decision that would define its place in the galaxy. Maya Novak, Earth's ambassador to the Galactic Council, had always thought the worst part of her job was the committee meetings. As she began composing the most important diplomatic cable in human history, she realized she'd been living in a very comfortable delusion. The worst part wasn't the bureaucracy. The worst part was the moment you realized you had to choose between peaceful oblivion and a righteous war. And she already knew which side she was on. The council chambers existed in what physicists called neutral space, a pocket dimension where all member species could survive without environmental suits. Maya had always found it unsettling, like being underwater without the water pressure. Today, it felt like a tomb. She materialized at Earth's designated platform, accompanied by a carefully selected team. No soldiers, too provocative. Instead, Dr. Kwan, the xenolinguist, Maria Santos, the cultural anthropologist, and James Zhou, whose official title was diplomatic liaison, but who everyone knew was NSA through and through. "Remember," Maya whispered through her neural comm, "we're here to demand justice, not declare war." Yet. The council chamber hummed with the collective consciousness of 37 species. The crystalline dominance refracted light in patterns that conveyed their mood, currently a deep violet of concern. The Murati collective swayed in their floating pools, tentacles forming complex geometric patterns. And at the center, the architects, the council's founding species, sat like five-dimensional chess pieces made of living metal. Maya had rehearsed this moment for 71 hours. She'd memorized legal precedents, studied galactic law, even practiced her breathing patterns to avoid accidentally offending species with pheromone-based communication. None of it had prepared her for the reality of standing before the beings who had just orchestrated mass execution on live broadcast. "The representative from Earth calls for recognition," announced Xylahar, the council's voice, a being that looked like what would happen if a tree mated with a synthesizer. "Thank you, voice." Maya activated her public address protocol. "Earth demands immediate explanation and justice for yesterday's violation of the Sentience Preservation Accord. The execution of 80,000 beings without trial, without appeal, and without. The Justice Protocol was implemented according to Directive 7941, Architect Prime interrupted, its voice like metal grinding against time itself. All executed entities were classified as cultural deviants posing a threat to galactic harmony. Your demand for justice suggests a fundamental misunderstanding of Council priorities." Maya felt the temperature drop, literally. The architect's displeasure manifested as localized thermodynamic anomalies. "With respect, Prime, murdering artists and philosophers isn't justice, it's control." She let that hang in the air, watching as various species shifted nervously. "And since Earth apparently tops your list of cultural deviants, I think we have a right to understand the criteria that define our existence as a threat." The chamber went silent. Even the Murati stopped their eternal swaying. "You admit to cultural deviation?" Architect Secondary asked, its form flickering between dimensions. "I admit to being human," Maya replied. "Which, according to your algorithm, apparently makes us the galaxy's biggest problem children. But here's what I think, you're terrified that thinking beings might question your authority." A ripple went through the chamber. Several species registered shock, the Zephyrians actually cracked, which was their equivalent of a gasp. The crystalline dominance shifted to angry orange. "Enough." Architect Prime's voice now carried harmonics that made Maya's bones ache. "Earth will submit to immediate cultural recalibration, or face the consequences you witnessed yesterday." This was the moment. Maya glanced at Joe, who gave an almost imperceptible nod. Somewhere in council-monitored space, Jax was beginning their hack. "Actually," Maya said, "I think it's time for some transparency." She activated the Emergency Broadcast Protocol, a little-known clause in the charter that allowed any species to address all citizens of all member worlds simultaneously. It was meant for existential threats. Maya figured this qualified. "Citizens of the Galactic Council," she began, projecting through every available channel, "your governments have been lying to you. Cease transmission immediately." Architect Prime thundered, but it was too late. Jax's hack had isolated the Council's shutdown capabilities. "For cycles, you've been told that the Council exists to promote harmony and prosperity. The truth? You've been subjects in a massive social control experiment. The harmony algorithm doesn't measure societal health, it measures obedience." Maya felt Joe press something into her hand. A data crystal, Jax had come through. She inserted it into the broadcast stream. "Here's the evidence. Every species in this chamber has dissidents on the next execution list. Every government here has been complicit in suppressing art, culture, and individual thought because the Council demanded it." The chamber erupted. Species began talking, arguing, questioning, accusing, in a cacophony of sounds, lights, and electromagnetic pulses. The crystalline dominance shattered into defensive formations. The Murati collective split into disagreement. Architect Prime rose to its full extent, reality bending around it. You have violated fundamental protocols. This act is considered an act of war. War. Maya laughed, a sound that echoed strangely in neutral space. You're already at war. You've been at war with individuality, creativity, and free thought across 37 species. We're just making it official. Dr. Kwan stepped forward, her translator running at maximum capacity as she addressed the chamber in a dialect that combined elements from 17 languages. Many of us have suspected. Many of us have lost loved ones to accidents and necessary sacrifices. The human ambassador speaks not just for Earth, but for every being who has wondered why their children stopped painting, why their poets fell silent, why their philosophers disappeared. The chamber's lighting began to shift, taking on the emergency amber that signaled a fundamental change in council protocols. Through her neural link, Maya received a flood of messages, private channels opening, species agreeing to secondary meetings, requests for the data Jax had leaked. Zhou touched her arm. Ambassador, we're getting responses. Not just from here, from their home worlds. Citizens are mobilizing. How many? 60% of council species are reporting civil unrest. Turns out nobody likes being told their kid's painting is too culturally deviant. Architect Prime's voice cut through the chaos. This insurgence will be contained. The algorithm will be recalibrated. Order will be restored. No, said a voice from the Zephyrian platform. Maya turned to see their representative, previously known for never speaking, standing fully manifest. We withdraw from the council. As do we, announced the Murati collective, their tentacles now weaving patterns of defiance. Species after species began declaring withdrawal. Not all, but enough. The council was fracturing in real time. Maya felt her calm buzz, Jax, through their secure channel. Nova, they're prepping emergency containment. You need to move. Now. Ambassador, Zhou said urgently, we need to go. Architect forces are mobilizing in 7 dimensions. But Maya hesitated. She thought of Luna, probably watching this broadcast from Europa, probably proud of her mother for once. She thought of the 80,000 beings who had died so she could have this moment. Prime, she called out, projecting her voice through the chaos. I have one last question. The architect paused, reality shifting around it. Was it worth it? All this control, all this death, did it bring the harmony you wanted? Architect Prime considered, and for a moment, Maya saw something almost vulnerable in its multidimensional form. It brought order. Order isn't harmony, she said quietly. Order is just fear with better scheduling. The chamber trembled as council emergency protocols fully activated. Maya gave a last look around, at the fracturing alliance, at the species choosing freedom over comfort, at the beginning of something new and terrifying and hopeful. Earth, she announced, formally withdraws from the Galactic Council. We'll see you all at the next Constitutional Convention. And this time, we're writing it together. She signaled her team. They activated their extraction protocol just as reality began to twist around them, the Council's last attempt to stop their departure. But Maya had learned something important in her time as ambassador. Sometimes the best diplomatic solution was knowing when diplomacy had failed. As Earth's team materialized back on Luna Station, Maya collapsed into a chair. Her neural implant buzzed with thousands of messages, from newly independent species, from Earth's government, from citizens across the galaxy who had just watched their universe change. Zhou handed her coffee, real Earth coffee, not the synthesized stuff they usually served in space. Think they'll try to retaliate? Probably, she said, looking out at the Earth below. But not right away. They're too busy trying to keep what's left of their alliance together. Dr. Kwan was already coordinating with other species representatives. Ambassador, we're getting requests for defensive pacts. Military cooperation. Cultural exchange programs without the algorithm's restrictions. Maya nodded, exhausted but oddly hopeful. Schedule it all. And someone get me a connection to my daughter. She's probably leading a protest somewhere, and I want to tell her she was right. Her calm chimed one last time. Jax. You did it, Nova. Council's communications are in free fall. About 60% of species have either withdrawn or are in open rebellion. The algorithm? It's being dismantled as we speak. And the cost? She already knew, but needed to hear it. 3 species decided to stick with the council. They're doubling down on the harmony rhetoric. And the architects? They're claiming this was all part of some greater plan. Of course they are. Maya laughed bitterly. Because admitting you created a galaxy-spanning tyranny to avoid dealing with messy democracy would be too honest. What's next? She looked out at the stars, wondering which ones housed species that had chosen freedom over order, chaos over control. Now, we figure out how 37 different species build a government based on actual consent instead of fear. Sounds messy. Probably. Maya raised her coffee in a mock toast. But at least it'll be interesting. And Luna will finally have something better to protest about than just her mother being a sellout bureaucrat. She ended the call and stared at the Earth, spinning slowly below her. In 72 hours, everything had changed. The galaxy was fracturing along lines of liberty versus control, and humanity, messy, loud, culturally deviant humanity, had just put itself at the center of the most important philosophical debate in galactic history. Maya Novak, former ambassador to the Galactic Council, current architect of interspecies rebellion, thought about the 80,000 beings whose deaths had brought them to this moment. She couldn't bring them back. But she could make sure their sacrifice meant something. Tomorrow, she'd start building a better galaxy. Tonight, she was going to call her daughter and tell her that sometimes, being the difficult student in the back of the classroom was exactly where you needed to be. The first stellar democracy would be born from chaos, held together by shared outrage and a collective desire for something better than algorithmic harmony. It would be messy, contentious, and probably doomed to half a dozen constitutional crises before anyone figured out how to make it work. She wouldn't have it any other way.